Howdy everybody, welcome to 1 Foot of Books, episode 16. My name's Shard and it's June the 7th, 2023. Heading into winter here in the beautiful Blue Mountains just outside of Sydney, Australia. The weather's fantastic. Slowly getting over this cold I had. I don't know if it was COVID. I tested, wasn't positive, but it knocked me out pretty hard for a couple of days. And for like over 2 weeks now, just the extraction of phlegm and snot just continues unabated. I don't know what it like. I'll tell you, man, you never get as sick as you do until you have kids. Kids just bring in airborne diseases into the house. As Louis C.K. says, the little buckets of disease that live in your house. I completely agree. So excuse me if I make some kind of, gross noises that remind you of the noises your parents used to make when you were growing up. Stuff like that. Excuse me. Let's get into episode 16 of 1 Foot of Books. This is from the top shelf, mostly paperbacks, some hardcovers. Start at the top, as we tend to do. Erich von Daniken, Chariots of the Gods. This is a 1972 Corgi edition. Quite like that cover. Quite like it. Erich von Daniken. Von just stands for the, so Erich the Daniken. Erich the Daniken. A polarizing figure, let's just say, rode the wave of kind of started the wave of the pseudo-archaeology thing back in the late 60s. Pretty much riding on the wave himself of a book that came out of France called The Morning of the Magicians, which is a great book. I would highly recommend that over anything von Daniken's written. I've only read a few of his books. I believe I have read this one, but it was a long time ago. And I read one he did with, I think he did one, no, that was someone else. Yeah. And I saw him do a speech. I saw him do a talk many years ago when he visited Sydney. Interesting book, kind of, like I say, kickstarted that pseudo-archaeology movement back in the 60s. The mantle's been taken up very much by Graham Hancock. I don't know if Von Daniken's still alive. Is he? If he is, let me know in the comments below. I'll wait for that before I jump on Wikipedia. I got this from the Salvos in Marrickville. Lao Tzu, Tao De Ching. Penguin Classics edition. This is a what edition is this? I don't think the Penguin Classics even say, yeah, it was originally published in 63, but there's a website on here, so I assume it's, at least maybe 20 years old, if that. The Tao De Ching, I've dipped in and out of over the years. It's been a long while since I jumped into the waters of the Tao. But yeah, it's a worthwhile book to have if you like the whole Eastern philosophy and stuff like that. If you're a fan of Confucius and you don't have Lao Tzu, you really should. Lao Tzu was around the same time as Confucius, a little bit older, and just compiled this book of the Tao, like just very wise sayings and concepts about the nature of reality and, it's hard to explain, but especially off the top of my head. I really should have done some research into the Tao to explain it better to you. But if not, you can get it around. It's around everywhere. Most secondhand bookshops will have a version of it. If you're lucky, thrift and secondhand stores and charity shops will have a copy. Very worthwhile. Very worthwhile read. I do like the old Tao De Ching. Ah! Inside the Black Room. This is by Jack Vernon, Studies of Sensory Deprivation. I just love that cover. I found this in a box of books that was left outside my friend's bookshop. And I was like, yeah, I'll have that. I haven't read it. This is a 1963 Penguin edition. Sorry, Pelican edition. Studies of... Yeah, I haven't read it. I haven't read it. Sensory Deprivation, apart from being a fantastic torture device, you know, it kind of got a wave of recognition with movies like Altered States and things. If you haven't seen Altered States, good movie, man. Check it out. And of course, like, you know, float tanks, stuff like that these days that are still around. Haven't read it. Like the cover. Well, I might dip into it one day. If not, I like having it on my shelf. Herman Hesse, Siddhartha. Haven't read it. I got this at Salvos one day. I believe it was the Tempe Tip Salvos. Haven't read it. Like I've explained in a previous video, Herman Hesse and I want to like Hesse more than I think. Like, I want to like him more than I do. I've read The Glass Bead Game, and I loved that book. That was a tough book, but I persevered, and I made it to the end, and I thought it was a really good book. I tried reading Steppenwolf. I got like 20 or 30 pages in, and I just kind of like, I tuned out. But Siddhartha, I haven't tried yet. I just haven't tried. It's only a short book, Shard. Come on, you should be able to do this. It's like only 100 pages. Tell you what, let's do the Siddhartha challenge. Anyone out there who wants to join me in reading Siddhartha in a week's a long time. We'll be able to get through 100 pages. Let me know in the comments. Send me a message. We'll do a little video. I don't know. We'll just have a little, book club. Let's do a book club. Siddhartha book club. The Siddhartha challenge. It sounds a lot less mean than it is. I don't even know what Siddhartha's about. Is it about Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha? Or, I don't know. The Verso Book of Dissent. I got this from my friend's dead uncle's collection. After he died, my friend invited me over to his uncle's place and said, hey, he's got this massive book collection, man. We don't, it's time to split it up and like let it flow back out into the universe. And I got a bunch of books off him. And the Verso Book of Dissent, From Spartacus to the Shoe Thrower of Baghdad, prefaced by Tariq Ali. I do like Tariq Ali. And it's basically just a timeline of dissent, examples of dissent. Mostly, I would say, from the last 150, 200 years, but it goes all the way back to the BCEs. There you go. Plato, Herodotus, Anonymous. Lots of Anonymouses. Oh my god, why are you trying to make a joke out of that? Rosa Luxemburg. Salvador Allende. Wow, there you go. I haven't read it, to be honest. Just been up on the shelf. Pulled it down now. This is a book I have read. Commentaries on Living, second series by Jiddu Krishnamurti. I found this book at Gould's up in Newtown, back when it was in the massive big building. From the notebooks of J. Krishnamurti, edited by D. Rajagopal. This is one of the books where I read it. I went through a phase, I've mentioned it before, I went through a phase of folding up just a piece of paper and writing notes. I don't know if you can see those, but just writing little quotes from the book. Let's explore, shall we? This is probably one of my more, like it's fully like a page and a half. So I'd fold it in 4, and I'd use each folded part as a page. I don't know if you can see that better, the scribblings of a madman, John Doe from 7. I vomited all over him, and I couldn't stop laughing. No, that's No, that's John Doe. But let's have a look. What did I write? Page 187. Thought cannot find that which is not the product of thought. Ooh. Wow. That's so true, though. 194. A preoccupied mind is never a free mind, whether it is preoccupied with the sublime or the trivial. Whoa. 215. Belief, however comforting, has in it the seed of fear. Whoa. Krishnamurti, man, I have a love affair with Krishnamurti stuff. I've got a bunch of his books. I'm happy to say I've read most of them. There's one or two that I've got up on the shelf that I haven't, but I've plowed through most of the Krishnamurti books that I've got, and I really dig what he was doing, which was basically putting the torch to everything. Anything. He would just be like, nah, let's think about that. It'd be like, whoa. Here's just a neutron bomb to the notion of consciousness and belief and like concepts like meditation and spirituality. And if you have a chance, check him out on YouTube, but really delve into his books. His books are the way to go. There's a few things out on YouTube with him in it, but he died in around 1985. But his books are worth their weight in gold, and you can find them around a lot of secondhand bookshops. He gets, just these, and there's also the Krishnamurti Society. I think is like present in a lot of countries, and they'll help you find books and materials. Page 71. Negative thinking is the highest form of intelligence. The world is you. You are the problem. The problem is not separate from you. The world is a projection of yourself. The world cannot be transformed until you are. Happiness is in... Oh, geez, sorry. I think I must have got lost writing that little tidbit down. Negative thinking is the highest form of intelligence in that you're redirecting everything into your ego and into your thought process. So, makes sense. Page 85. The mind is the past in response to the present, which makes for the future. Relationship is life. To be is to be related. Krishnamurti. Dude, I love that guy. This is a hardcover edition. Got no dust jacket. 1959. 1959 edition. I have fond memories of reading this on the train and standing at train stations reading it and going, I wonder if someone just sees how intelligent I am reading a Krishnamurti book. Didn't happen. But hey, negative thinking is the highest form of intelligence. The interpretation of dreams, Sigmund Freud. Bit of a battered modern library hardcover edition. This is from 1978. It's got some. I found this in the box of books outside my friend's bookshop. It's a little bit mouse-eaten and stuff like that. But I've got this, and I've got another Freud book from the same edition, and I like having them both. I haven't read this interpretation of dreams. I don't know if there's that much to be. I don't know. Is there? Do you interpret your dreams? I tend to keep dream journals every once in a while when I remember. I don't know. We're a pattern-seeking species. We love finding meaning where a lot of the time there is no meaning. What's that Tarkovsky quote? Of course life has no meaning, because then we wouldn't be free. So, interpretation of dreams. I quite like that edition. The old Robert McKee story. I pilfered this from a friend at university, and I never gave it back. And do I feel bad? No. I think he got another copy, because it's a pretty important book. We were both film students, and we were like, yeah, let's write screenplays and stuff. And of course, Robert McGee, this thing is like one of the Bibles of screenwriting, / creative output. Good book. I read it a lot years ago. I haven't read it in ages. This is a 1998 edition. I've had it for a long time. Substance, Structure, Style, and the Principles of Screenwriting. Yeah. Back when I wanted to write movies. When I wrote one, that was about it. Then the drugs took over. Speaking of drugs, The Brotherhood of Eternal Love. From Flower Power to Hippie Mafia, the story of the LSD counterculture. The Brotherhood of Eternal Love were a biker gang, I think, who started, and producers of LSD back in the 60s, and they just started running around with it all over California and America, and really screwed things up for the whole LSD movement in hindsight. I think I read most of this book, but then I stopped. So it covers things like Aldous Huxley, Timothy Leary, of course, Millbrook. Yeah. If you like that whole like counterculture 60s stuff, it's a very, very good book, very informative book. Like a bit of like a look, peek behind the curtain kind of thing of the swinging 60s, the free love 60s. Kind of like seeing the stats for venereal disease and from the Summer of Love, you know. Yeah, from what I read, which is 3/4 of it, really good book. Where did I get this from? I think I got this from Anne's Books in Kaitaia, back when I got the copy of the Satanic Bible there. How the hell that ends up in a rural bookshop in small town New Zealand. The Anti-American Manifesto, Ted Rall. Ted Rall, I was brought to the attention of Ted Rall through the output of Jello Biafra, specifically some of his spoken word albums that he released, these big 3 CD box sets, and in the booklets he would have Ted Rall comics. Ted Rall's a political kind of cartoonist, opinion columnist, graphic novelist, and war correspondent. And he did these really cool like little comics. I didn't know who did them back when I was listening to Jello Biafra back in the 90s. But then I found out who he was, of course. And then years later, I found this at the Salvos in Marrickville. I was like, cool, Ted Rall did a book. And it's all words. There's no cartoons. I've read a bit of it, but that was a long time ago. I'm really sorry, Ted. This is from 2010, so it probably would have been a good 7 or 8 years ago. I read a little bit of this. Yeah. I can't even remember what it's about. He presents a daring and inspiring new roadmap for an America that is headed towards economic and political collapse. That was about 13 years ago. How's that collapse going? Slow but steady. The Story of O. Pauline Reage. Can you say it like that? Reage. Friend of mine at my friend's bookshop gave me this. She's like, you gotta read this with your insert girlfriend's name here. And at the time, and I think we read a couple of pages together. Woo. But I never got that far. Like most sexual fantasies, they exist only up in your mind, and if they ever do come true, they won't be what you imagine. One of the most famous erotic novels of all time. I haven't read it, cover to cover at least. I don't know. Anyone got any thoughts on the Story of O? Sigmund Freud again. Psychopathology of everyday life. I like this cover. Again, I think I got it from that box of books. It's a little bit mouse-eaten. But cool cover. Let's have a look. Who's it published by? A Mentor publication, the Mentor book from, oh, it hasn't even got a date. I think the date page has fallen out. It's very, yes, the glue is just done. Mistakes in Speech, Childhood and Concealing Memories. Oh, maybe I should read that. But the paper just fell out. Yeah, this is probably at least from the 1950s. Yeah, and it's kind of falling apart. I should be careful with that one. There's dust coming out of it. Hey, speaking of more Krishnamurti, The Awakening of Intelligence. Nice big Krishnamurti book. Got some photos of him too. Sexy old man. 1976 edition of a 1973 first publication. I think I have read a little bit of this, but this is big for a Krishnamurti book. This is one of the ones I haven't read. The Awakening of Intelligence. If I have, would have been a long time ago, and it only would have been a little bit. But where did I get this one from? This one's from Gould's as well. Probably from around the same time I got that Commentaries on Living. Yeah. I'll read that one day, back when I get into a Krishnamurti groove. Oh, Ursula K. LeGuin. The Left Hand of Darkness. If you are a sci-fi head, and you haven't read The Left Hand of Darkness, stop what you're doing right after this video and find a copy of this. This is a great book. It was published back in the 60s, I believe. Let me just double check that. 1969, and this is a 1973 edition. It's only a couple of 100 pages long, but packs so much into those pages. It kind of follows on, it's like part of that kind of loose Hainish cycle that grew out of a lot of her books. So it's part of that universe which has like The Dispossessed and a bunch of other shorter like short stories and stuff like that. And it's about a guy who's from this advanced technology world, goes to a not so advanced technology world where the notion of gender doesn't exist, in that the human-like people that live there swap genders according to times of year and stuff like that. And so they'll reverse roles, but their roles, male-female, aren't the same as what the guy who's visiting is from. And he goes on an adventure with one of these people. You know, kind of out of left field, to be honest. That the adventure part of it's like the last half, and it's pretty rip-roaring. Yeah, I really liked it. I would read this book again. I would read a lot by Ursula K. LeGuin again. And yes, like I say, if you haven't read it, please do. The Left Hand of Darkness. It's up there, man. It's up there for a reason. Where did I get that from? Any clues? I think I got this from my friend's bookshop, to be honest, because I rarely, if I've ever seen this out in a thrift store. Secondhand shop would be a better bet. Secondhand bookshop, or buy it new online or secondhand online. American Scream, the Bill Hicks story. Got this from Kinokuniya back in the day. This book was really inspiring to me. It made me go and do stand-up for a year, or helped me go and do stand-up for a year. And whenever I read it, I would just be like, I just wanted to get up and do some stand-up. Bill Hicks, of course. If you haven't heard of Bill Hicks, do yourself a favor. Get on Spotify. Get on YouTube. Some of his stuff is a little bit dated now, but hasn't been another comedian like Bill Hicks, who hasn't, of course, been ripping off directly from Bill Hicks. A very interesting dude. The world would be different if he was still around. much like if John Lennon survived or Bob Marley survived, like the world would be a different place. And if Bill Hicks survived, I think he would have changed the world somehow. I don't know how. Yeah, he was a cool dude. By some accounts, a bit of a dick, and probably, aren't we all? But this is a great book, Cynthia True. It's a few hundred pages long. It's a good, quick, rollicking read, and an awesome little history of stand-up in like the 80s and early 90s in America. Yeah, cool book. Very cool book. Don't forget the Siddhartha challenge. If you want to read Siddhartha with me, it's only 107 pages long. If you've got a copy that's been hanging around your house and you're like, I want to read that, I want to get it, read it with me. Send me a message, send me a comment on the video. Let's see if we can get a Siddhartha reading challenge going, just so we can get it out of our lives. Okay, I better just, get off to work. Sorry for wearing the same thing as last week, but this is my kind of like cozy homebody sweater / jersey. We call sweaters jerseys in New Zealand. What do they call them here? Not pullovers. Jumpers? Jumpers. Yeah. So in New Zealand it's jersey or jumper. In Australia it's jumper. I don't know why. You don't want to jump when you're wearing a jumper. You just get hot and sweaty. Anyway, yeah. Thanks for tuning in to One Foot of Books, episode 16. Thanks for everyone who subscribed and keep watching these videos. I really appreciate it. Thank you. It really kind of, it makes me feel like I have a purpose in life and something that's been lacking for the last 44 years. All right. Have a good week, everybody. I'll see you next time on One Foot of Books.